Solitude is not the price of independent thinking. It is its guarantee. Every genuinely original idea you formulate, every conclusion you reach through your own reasoning instead of absorbing from consensus, every moment your mind refuses to accept the dominant narrative gradually distances you from the tribe. Not because you are special, not because you are superior, but because humans are social animals whose survival for millions of years depended on group conformity, and your brain, like everyone else's, is programmed to detect and punish deviation. The independent thinker is not celebrated for their originality. They are marked as a threat, and the instinctive response to threats is not curious dialogue. It is systematic isolation until the deviant conforms or disappears. This is not paranoia. It is basic anthropology applied to your daily life. The illusion sold to you is that we live in a society that values critical thinking, originality, and the willingness to question dogmas. Schools claim to teach critical thinking. Corporations claim to seek innovators. Popular culture celebrates rebels, visionaries, those who challenge the status quo. But observe how it really works. A student who genuinely questions the fundamentals of what is taught is not celebrated as a critical thinker. It is problematic. An employee who challenges the fundamental assumptions of how the company operates is not seen as innovative. They are seen as not a team player. An individual who rejects the dominant political narratives from both sides is not respected for their independence. They are attacked by all sides. Society says it values independent thinking. What it truly values is the illusion of independent thought that arrives at convenient conclusions. And this begins early, long before you have the ability to recognize it. Watch children in a playground. There are implicit rules about what is acceptable, what games are played, what language is used, who belongs to the group. The child who does not follow these rules, who suggests different games, who speaks differently, who shows interests that the group does not share, is immediately identified as strange. Not through conscious deliberation, through social instinct. The other children do not collectively decide to exclude him. It simply happens. The group coalesces around shared similarities, and the different one is left out. The teachers interpret this as simple social dynamics of childhood. It is early training in the cost of non-conformity. This process intensifies during adolescence, where the pressure to conform reaches its peak because teenagers are navigating identity while fully relying on social acceptance. The adolescent who thinks differently, who rejects popular music, who questions social hierarchies, who does not participate in group rituals, experiences brutal isolation. Not because other teenagers are cruel by nature, because the group is defined by what it excludes as much as by what it includes. Group identity requires clear boundaries between us and them. And the thinker who is different, simply by being different, automatically becomes them. The group does not reject him out of malice. It rejects him to reinforce its own cohesion. Each exclusion is a ritual that affirms the solidarity of those who remain inside. Solomon Asch demonstrated the power of this pressure with devastating experimental elegance in the 1950s. He placed subjects in a room with actors who pretended to be other participants. They showed them lines of different lengths and asked which ones were equal. The answer was obvious. One line was clearly longer, but the actors, following instructions, unanimously gave the incorrect answer. And about 3/4 of the real subjects conformed with the group at least once, claiming that lines of obviously different lengths were equal. They were not lying to avoid conflict. Their actual perception had adjusted. The group consensus surpassed the evidence of their own eyes. Because the human brain is optimized for social belonging, and belonging requires perceptual conformity. Seeing what the group sees, believing what the group believes, is not simply socially safe. It is how your brain confirms that you belong. Those who resisted peer pressure in the Asch experiment, who maintained their independent perception in the face of unanimous consensus, reported significant anxiety. They did not experience their independence as a virtue. They experienced it as a threat. Their brains generated alarm signals because they were violating the group consensus, and violating the group consensus historically meant danger. The individual who sees things that the group does not see, who reaches different conclusions, who holds deviant beliefs, is not simply thinking differently. They are signaling their potential exclusion from the group. And the brain interprets that as an existential threat because, for most of human history, it was. This mechanic does not disappear in adulthood. It simply becomes more sophisticated. In professional contexts, the independent thinker who questions fundamental assumptions, who suggests that the entire organization's strategy is wrong, who identifies problems that everyone else is ignoring, is not promoted for their insight. They are marginalized. Because organizations, like all social structures, prioritize stability over truth. The person who questions the fundamentals is a source of instability. Even if they are right, especially if they are right, they pose a threat to the existing hierarchy, to the power investments others have made, to the narrative the organization has built about itself. So they are silenced through subtle mechanisms. Their ideas are ignored. Their contributions are minimized. They are excluded from important conversations. And eventually, they face a choice: conform or leave. And in personal relationships, the pattern is identical but more painful because it feels like personal rejection rather than simply institutional dynamics. When you start to think independently, when your reasoning process leads you to conclusions that differ from those of your social circle, your friends do not respond with intellectual curiosity. They respond with discomfort. Your new ideas are not explored. They are seen as threats. Because friendship, in most cases, is not built on mutual intellectual respect. It is built on shared consensus. Your friends are people who see the world in a way similar to yours. And when you stop seeing it that way, when your perspective diverges, the foundation of the friendship erodes. You cannot have the same conversations. You cannot share the same assumptions. You cannot participate in the same rituals of mutual validation where everyone confirms everyone else's beliefs. And here is the brutal part. The friends you lose do not abandon you because they are bad people. They abandon you because your independent thinking makes them feel uncomfortable in ways they cannot fully articulate. Your willingness to question things they accept as truths forces them to confront their own lack of questioning. Your intellectual independence is an implicit mirror that reflects their conformity. And no one enjoys being confronted with their own intellectual complacency. So instead of examining their own beliefs, instead of facing the discomfort that your different thinking generates, they simply distance themselves. They see you less often. They respond to your messages with less enthusiasm. Eventually, the friendship simply fades away, and you find yourself wondering what you did wrong, when all you did was think. Romantic relationships face similar but intensified pressures. Romantic intimacy requires shared vulnerability, shared values, and a shared worldview. When one partner begins to think independently, when their worldview evolves in directions the other does not share, the relationship faces fundamental tension. And the typical response is not to celebrate the partner's intellectual growth. It is to resist it, because a change in a partner's perspective threatens the stability of the relationship. It threatens the shared plans built on shared assumptions. It threatens the shared identity that had developed. So the partner whose thinking is changing faces implicit and explicit pressure to stop changing, to return to who they were, to maintain the beliefs that made the relationship comfortable. And if they refuse, if they continue to think independently, the relationship typically ends. Not because any of the partners is bad, because the fundamental intellectual incompatibility makes intimacy unsustainable. Schopenhauer, who spent most of his life in philosophical isolation, wrote extensively about what he called the porcupine dilemma. In cold weather, porcupines come close to each other for warmth. But when they get too close, their quills prick each other, so they move away. But then they feel cold again. Then they come closer again. And the cycle continues as they seek the optimal distance where they get enough warmth without too much pain. Schopenhauer used this as a metaphor for human relationships. We need social connection, but true closeness inevitably causes friction. Most people solve this by maintaining emotional and intellectual distance. They form relationships based on social convention, shared superficial interests, consensus on safe topics. These relationships provide warmth without much pain because they never reach real depth. But the independent thinker cannot maintain that safe distance. Their thinking takes them to places others do not go. And when they try to share those ideas, when they try to have genuine conversations about their conclusions, they prick others with their thorns. Not intentionally, simply because of the nature of what they are saying. Their ideas challenge assumptions that others need to hold on to for their psychological comfort. Their questions expose inconsistencies that others prefer to ignore. Their willingness to explore uncomfortable intellectual territories causes anxiety in others who have built their identities on unexamined certainties. So others withdraw. They keep their distance, and the independent thinker is left alone, not because they are intentionally hurtful, but because their intellectual honesty is incompatible with the superficial relationships most people cultivate. And here is where it truly gets dark. The independent thinker eventually internalizes the pattern. After enough rejections, after enough friendships fade away, after enough relationships end because your perspective evolved, you begin to self-censor. Not consciously at first. You simply notice that certain topics cause tension. Certain ideas make people uncomfortable, so you stop sharing them. You develop a public version of yourself that is more palatable, more conventionally acceptable. You keep your true ideas private, and slowly, without realizing the process, you begin to live a double life. There is the person you are when you're alone, thinking your real thoughts, reaching your honest conclusions. And there is the person you present to the world, carefully calibrated not to offend, not to challenge, not to discomfort. This division is psychologically exhausting. It requires constant monitoring of what you can say and what you must hide. It requires maintaining parallel narratives, one for public consumption and one for private reflection. And over time, you begin to lose the distinction. You forget what your original thought was and what version you built for social acceptance. You become a stranger to yourself. And loneliness intensifies because now you are not only alone in your external relationships, but also alone within your own psyche, separated from your authentic self by layers of self-censorship that you built to survive socially. Nietzsche faced this directly in his life and philosophy. He wrote from an almost complete isolation, misunderstood by his contemporaries, rejected by academia, physically ill, and socially marginalized. And he wrote about the concept of the free spirit, the individual who has managed to free themselves from the chains of conventional thought. But Nietzsche did not romanticize this. He recognized that intellectual freedom comes with a brutal cost. The free spirit must give up the comfort of consensus, the security of tribal belonging, and the ease of relationships based on superficial agreement. They must be willing to be alone, not by choice, but because the alternative is to betray their own intellectual integrity. Nietzsche identified something crucial about why the independent thinker is so consistently rejected. It is not simply because their ideas are different. It is because their ideas represent an implicit accusation against those who do not think independently. The mere existence of someone who questions, who thinks critically, who reaches unconventional conclusions through rigorous reasoning, reveals by contrast the unthinking conformity of the majority. You don't have to say anything. Your independence speaks for itself. And people respond to this implicit accusation not with self-reflection, but with hostility. It is easier to attack the messenger than to examine the message. It is more comfortable to marginalize the different thinker than to confront your own unexamined thinking. This hostility can be subtle, wrapped in concern. Your friends tell you that you are overthinking. Your family tells you that you are becoming cynical. Your colleagues suggest that you need to be more pragmatic. All these are polite ways of saying, stop thinking independently. Return to consensus. Stop making us uncomfortable. And if you ignore these subtle signals, the hostility becomes less subtle. You are accused of arrogance, of believing you are smarter than everyone else. As if the problem were not your ideas, but your ego. This is a brilliant discrediting tactic because it shifts the conversation from the content of your ideas to your character. You are no longer presenting arguments that should be considered. You are displaying arrogance that needs correction. And in the modern digital environment, this punishment mechanism has been amplified to grotesque proportions. Social networks operate through tribal validation. You post something that aligns with your tribe's consensus. You receive likes, affirming comments, shares. Your brain releases dopamine. You experience social validation. But if you post something that challenges the consensus, something that reaches independent conclusions that discomfort your tribe, you experience the opposite: silence, or worse, attacks. Your tribe does not debate your ideas. It attacks you personally. It accuses you of betraying the group, of being captured by the other tribe, of arguing in bad faith. And if your ideas are sufficiently deviant, if you challenge the consensuses of multiple tribes simultaneously, you experience hostility from all sides. You become what is called politically homeless, rejected by all tribes because you do not fit perfectly into any prepackaged narrative. This environment is toxic for genuine thinking because the cost of intellectual independence is now public and immediate. It's not just that you gradually lose friendships, it's that you can be publicly humiliated, cancelled, marked as a pariah in real time. And your brain, this organ optimized for tribal belonging, registers this as an existential threat. It generates anxiety every time you consider expressing an unconventional idea. You self-censor not because you consciously decide to do so, but because your brain is protecting your social survival. And slowly, without recognizing the process, you stop thinking independently of the whole. You simply absorb and regurgitate the narratives of your chosen tribe, convincing yourself that these are your genuine conclusions, when in reality, they are just the ideas that are safe to hold. But there is an even more disturbing dimension. Not everyone who claims to be independent thinkers truly are. Many have simply replaced one conformity with another. They have left one tribe to join another that is defined by its supposed non-conformity. Libertarians who repeat free market dogmas without examination. Atheists who recite anti-religious debate points without original thought. Counterculturalists who follow the orthodoxy of non-conformity as rigidly as others follow conventional orthodoxies. These people experience the isolation of independent thinkers without truly thinking independently. They have confused adopting minority beliefs with genuine thought. And this is perhaps more sad than obvious conformity because they believe they are free while they are equally chained. True independent thinking is not about taking opposing positions. It is the process of rigorously examining your own beliefs, questioning their foundations, following the logic wherever it leads, even if it leads to uncomfortable conclusions, even if those conclusions isolate you from any tribe. It is intellectually solitary because you cannot simply adopt others' conclusions, not even those of other independent thinkers. You must do the work yourself. And that work is endless because new data, new experiences, new arguments require constant re-evaluation. You can never rest in comfortable certainty. You must keep everything provisional, willing to revise in the face of sufficient evidence. This perpetual uncertainty is cognitively exhausting and socially isolating because most people build their identities on certainties. They cannot relate to someone who keeps everything provisional. And this finally leads us to the darkest question. If independent thinking guarantees loneliness, if the cost of intellectual integrity is social isolation, if honesty about your real conclusions destroys your relationships, is it worth it? This is the question that every independent thinker eventually faces. And the honest answer is not comforting. There is no guaranteed reward. There is no inevitable vindication. You will not arrive at correct conclusions, and the world will not finally recognize your wisdom. You will probably die as misunderstood and alone as you lived. So why continue? Why not simply conform? Adopt the beliefs of your chosen tribe. Enjoy the comfort of belonging. The only honest answer is that some people simply cannot. Not because they are morally superior, because their psychological makeup makes conformity more painful than isolation. For these people, betraying their own perception, pretending to believe things they do not believe, maintaining the farce of consensus when they see cracks is unbearable. It is not virtue. It is an inability to do otherwise. They are like the subjects in the Ash experiment who could not agree with the group even under intense pressure. Their psychological wiring prioritizes internal coherence over external belonging, and they pay the price of that wiring all their lives. So the final question, the mirror that must be turned directly towards you, is not whether you value independent thinking. It is whether you are truly capable of it. How many of your current beliefs have you rigorously examined versus how many you absorbed from your tribe? How many of your political opinions did you develop through critical thinking versus how many did you adopt because your social group supported them? How many of your certainties about the world would survive genuine scrutiny? Are you willing to follow reasoning wherever it leads, even if it takes you away from your tribe? Can you tolerate the loneliness that comes from honest thinking? Or do you prefer the comfort of consensus, the security of belonging, the ease of relationships built on superficial agreement? There is no correct answer. Both paths have costs, but you must be honest about which one you are walking. If you choose conformity, acknowledge it. Don't pretend you're thinking independently when you're simply repeating your tribe's consensus. And if you choose genuine independent thought, fully understand the price. It won't be romantic. You won't be vindicated. You will end up alone, not because the world is unfair, but because isolation is the inevitable consequence of divergence in a tribal species. Solitude is not the accidental cost of different thinking. It is its inherent structure. Can you pay that price? Or are you already paying it without realizing that you chose this path? Only you know the answer. But that answer will determine not only your intellectual life, but your entire life. Are you alone because you think differently? Or did you stop thinking differently because you couldn't bear to be alone? Both are tragedies. Only one is truly honest.